Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om. 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 Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram Om.
Pranam Swami ji.
Pranam, pranam, pranam to everybody. Pranam, pranam, pranam. Where are we now? Any idea? Where are we?
Leaving the body.
Where are we now?
Reference to Vinobaji.
Reference to Vinobaji.
Prayopadesham.
Prayopavesham.
Prayopavesham. As we were sharing yesterday, in a small book called The Talks on Gita, many of you might be knowing, Vinobaji was selected as the first volunteer for individual satyagraha by Gandhiji. So, in 1932, when he was selected, he was arrested naturally by the British government and he was put in jail because he was well versed in all Shastras and he was leading a very, very disciplined life. The co-prisoners requested him to share some ennobling thoughts, enlivening thoughts. So he took up commentary on, not commentary, how he approaches each and every chapter, not sloga by sloga, to the workaday life, daily life, because it was not for an academic or intellectual knowledge. It was purely to see Gita in the life. And then when he started viewing right from chapter 1 up to chapter 18, whatever he was prompted from within, he started sharing in Marathi. But luckily God willed that somebody should, unlike today, there are no facilities to record. But somebody was kind enough to jot down the points. And because he was well versed in various languages, ultimately it came out in the form of a book called Talks on Gita. If we remember right, it has been translated into 26 languages. So that is how we all got this Talks on Gita. Though originally it was rendered in Marathi, Vinobaji himself, who is a master in English also, who was able to go through, edit and bring it out. So every chapter we will find, it is not a commentary on sloga by sloga. How it appealed to him, the quintessence of the teachings, interpreted in our daily language, daily life language. So it is not a tall talk. So that how, in the second chapter, yesterday we were trying to read a few. We hate the word death. It is considered inauspicious. Jnandev had to write regretfully. They cannot bear the word death and cry over death. If someone dies, what tears, what wailing, what seem to think it is a duty. Even when death is imminent, we do not tell the patient of it. He is kept in the dark even when a doctor has told us that a patient cannot live. Even doctors do not speak plainly to the patients and go on pouring medicines down their throats till the last moment. If instead the doctor were to tell the patient the truth, give him courage and direct his thoughts towards God, what a help that would be. This particular chapter, even the date is there, 28 December 1932. After 50 or 53 years, he dropped the body. All these things were valid even at that time. When the doctor came and said that you had a heart attack, massive heart attack, you should be hospitalized, he said no. When the medicine and so many things were sent, many of you might know even the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi rushed up to Nagpur to meet him in his ashram and pleaded with him. He was firm. And he stopped taking food, stopped taking medicine, stopped taking water. And on the seventh day, he dropped the body. Even doctors do not speak plainly to the patients and go on pouring medicines. If instead the doctor were to tell the patient the truth, give him courage and direct his thoughts towards God, what a help that would be. We also now remember when we were working with the Jain, I think it was in the year 1969, the father of the person with whom we were working, suddenly he got a massive heart attack. He had gone for some function. So he was told not to move. So in that remote area where he has gone for some function, they immediately made arrangement, no electricity, nothing like that. but he was made to rest there. And a senior doctor from Calicut, he was abroad. We all went to see him in the evening. We asked him, how do you feel? He's a noble soul, very noble soul. So he will say in clear-cut terms, he said, I asked the doctor whether this will lead to the death. Because why, not to become panicky. He said, I have to entrust so many things to these people, otherwise they will have vyavaharic problem. Many things I would not have divulged to them. Because he was controlling more than 1,000 acres in his management. About 300-400 laborers, more 100 staff members, and so many institutions with which he was connected on those days. So he had made some commitment to various these things. So he told us, I asked the doctor plainly whether the death is imminent. The doctor says no. Still, yesterday evening he passed away. Even while he was telling, he was in the passive mood, not at all stressed, not at all upset. Because he was a devout Jain. And because he is well-versed not merely in rituals, well-versed in his philosophy, and because he has imbibed and assimilated and absorbed the sublime teachings, he was 100% clear. Just like birth, death is also inevitable. So he was prepared to accept it. Just like Vinobaji. We have seen so many people now who are in a position to accept the inevitability of death. Normally we don't try to engage ourselves in the realm of our concept of thought and death. Then he also adds, it is feared that this little pot might crack of shock before its time. Why the doctor does not say he will get a shock and he will immediately die? And Vinobaji says, but can death ever come before the right moment? Besides, even if it comes a little earlier, what does it matter? We should certainly not be loveless and hard-hearted, but attachment to the body is not love. On the contrary, true love emerges only when attachment to the body is overcome. When we are freed of that attachment, we would realize that the body is an instrument for service. Then the body would gain its true dignity. Body is not for indulgence, Now the body is taken for indulgence. There are various sense objects before us. We have got sense organs. Each organ will try to dwell on the sense objects. That is called indulgence. And we derive some transient pleasure out of it. And every time we crave for it. Think. That's why he says, when we are freed of that attachment, we would realize that the body is an instrument for service, not for indulgence. And then the body would gain its true dignity. But today we regard pampering of the body as the sole purpose of our lives. We have totally forgotten that life is to be lived for the fulfillment of Swadharma, and one has to look after the body for this purpose only. It should be given proper nourishment, but there is no need to indulge the palate. And yesterday, whether this glass is used, anything it can contain, It can be a bitter gourd juice, it can be a sugarcane juice, it can be a spicy juice, but this is not affected. All drawn from practical life. That is the uniqueness of Vinobaji. So he says, there is no need to indulge. It is all the same to a ladle, whether you use it to serve Srikhand, a sweet dessert, or a plain curry. It feels neither happy or unhappy. The same should be the case with our tongue. It should, of course, be able to distinguish between different tastes, but should not feel any pleasure or repulsion. The body is to be paid its due hire, nothing more. A spinning wheel has to be oiled regularly to keep it in working condition. In the same way, we should provide fuel to the body as we have to take work from it. If that is our approach, the body, although having little intrinsic worth, would become worthy and valuable and gain true dignity. But instead of using the body as an instrument, we lose ourselves in it, stunt our spirit, whereby the body which has little intrinsic worth is made of even less worth. That is why the saints vehemently say one should censure the narrow confinement to the body and the blood relations. One may rather venerate even the pigs and dogs. Do not therefore worship the body and its ties all the time. No, this is the word. All the time. When we are sick, we take the medicine. We follow the instructions of the doctor. Because this is the platform through which we work. Even to know about God, we need this platform. Even to pursue in knowing Him, we make use of all that He has given to us. So this is valid. Later on, when we advance in this spiritual science, we will be able to recognize the truth that He has given us a body to work out His plan through us. At the moment, we feel we are doing everything, we are planning, because we have no idea about Him. But right from the state level up to this moment, it is He and He alone who is behind everything. This fact, initially it is conveyed to us through a spiritual preceptor, Guru, and then later on our own sadhana will try to make us aware of this truth gradually. Because we have not understood it right from our impressionable age, right from our childhood days, and we have gathered so many concepts about life, we have fixed up priorities and preferences and whatnot, we are unable to digest it straight away, that God is behind everything. Even the very words that are coming out now, even the hand that is moving out now, is because of His presence in us. So we are working out, in the truest sense, we are working out His will through us. So this clarity comes. Even the second chapter, in 1932, mind you. Do we open our hearts to those outside our narrow circle? Do we ever try to identify ourselves with others? Do we let our swan life, the bird of the spirit, escape from the cage of the body and breathe freedom? Does it ever occur to us that we would widen the circle of our friends continually so as to ultimately encompass the whole world and feel that the whole world is ours and that we belong to the whole world? Because we are not aware that He has assigned us this life to work out His plan, we started developing so many concepts about life, and that made us to unknowingly contract to ourselves. The me and mine started becoming predominant. Think about anything that makes us life, makes our life living, makes our life comfortable. This living and this comfortable life is given to us by factors other than us. Even if we don't bring God into the picture, we will know that because of Mother Nature, we are existing. Because of the society, we are enjoying everything. So in what way am I justified? Can I justify myself that me and mine is right? That is why he is making to ask us this question. Do we ever open our hearts to those outside our narrow circle of friends and relatives? When we use the specs, we don't know the first person who conceived, in which country, we don't know that. Even the very language. Anything that we use, we don't know who gave us this. That is why Papa put it in a beautiful way. To love all is the true bhakti of God. To serve all is the real worship of God. Because we are all interconnected, interdependent. None of the material scientists declared that this one should be used only by me and my family. Whatever discovery, invention or innovation that were brought out through them, it is for everybody. So when Papa said the world we live in is a school in which observation and experience offer us immense possibilities for self-improvement, and the world itself is Guru or God, we did not understand that. Now we are slowly trying to understand. Everything teaches our commitment toward the entire creation. Everything teaches about our total subservience to the higher power. So how can we limit ourselves? Do we ever open our hearts to those outside our narrow circle of friends and relatives? Do we ever try to identify ourselves with others? Do we let our swan life, the bird of the spirit, escape from the cage of the body and breathe freedom? Does it ever occur to us that we should widen the circle of our friends continually so as to ultimately encompass the whole world and feel that the whole world is ours and we belong to the whole world? The soul is ever restless to reach out to others. It longs to embrace the whole world. When we were reading this, to understand it, God placed before us. In good old days, it was All India Radio. Before TV came, TV came to Kerala only after the Asiad game, 80s, 85. Before that, there was no TV. There was no TV at all. So before that, we were all relying on AR, news at 9 o'clock. English news would be there. The moment we hear the news, suppose somewhere something had gone wrong, earthquake, avalanche or something like that, tsunami, immediately, unknowingly, your first reaction, oh God, When you sit now before the TV, and when you see in somewhere, some part of the world is affected by anything, what is your honest feeling at that time, for a split second? Oh, after that you are back to your one. Suddenly you don't feel happy when you find an earthquake somewhere. You find tsunami somewhere. There is a massacre killing. So yesterday, Mexico, there was, so many things are coming in now. The moment you read that, then you start analyzing. We are not geographically connected. There is no genetically connected. But what is it that made us to connect ourselves? Oh, sorry. Then at that time we remember. Basically, essentially, intrinsically, we are one with everybody. But the aperture immediately closes because of me and mine. I am not affected. But for a moment, but even now we can say there are so many incidents in India. When the tsunami came, when the floods came in Bombay, how many people rushed forward to help others, even risking their life. In many places when the tsunami took place, many people prepared kits, went to the affected area and started distributing it. Even now, when there is a calamity happens, people rise up to the occasion. What is it that made them to do? Just think about it. So it is there. We are not aware. At times it comes out from the me and mine to a higher dimension. The soul is ever restless to reach out to others. That is why he said. The soul is ever restless to reach out to others. It longs to embrace the whole world, but we shut it up in a cell. We have imprisoned it and are not even conscious of it. From morning till evening, we are busy minding the body, worrying about how fat or thin we have become. Even now we do that. We go to the weighing machine now. Perhaps there is no other joy in the world, but even beasts experience pleasures of the senses. Will you not like to taste the joy of giving, the joy of controlling the palate? What joy there is in giving away your full plate of food, though you too are hungry. A mother working hard for her child knows something of this joy. In fact, even one draws a small circle around the eye and mind, one is unconsciously striving to experience the joy in the enlargement of the self. Thereby the self, otherwise encased in the body, is released to a limited extent and for a little while. But what sort of release is this? It is like a prisoner coming out of his cell into the prison courtyard. This hardly satisfies the self's aspiration. It wants the joy of unbounded freedom. In short, a seeker after truth should avoid the bylanes of adharma and take to the natural and straight path of sadharma. Never waver from it, bearing in mind that the body is transient. It should be used for the sake of the performance of sadharma and should be given up for its sake when the need arises. This is what exactly after 53 days he did it. Given up. It should be given up for its sake when the need arises. Remaining ever aware of the eternal and all-pervading nature of the self, the distinction of mine and thine should be removed from the mind. The Lord has expounded these three principles of life. One who follows them would undoubtedly have someday or the other the experience using the human body as an instrument. One can reach the exalted state of Satchit Ananda. So, and in the 8th chapter, exhaustively, the 2nd as well as the 8th chapter, he dwells upon this sadhana for a happy ending of life. So even while we are kicking and alive, we are dynamic, we are in our own fields, somewhere in the corner of our mind, we should know. Yesterday, that is why it was said yesterday, it will not demotivate. In fact, it will make us to become more dynamic when the attachment is not there. We think only because of attachment we work. Certainly not. Nowadays, when we go to their field of profession, and seemingly the boss gives a target or a project, when you involve in your work, watch yourself, how committed you are, how persevere you are in tapping out for the breakthrough. At that time, no other thing gets prioritized in your mind. Nowadays, people work at home also, So those who are there, they will be able to know. Even if a cup of coffee is kept on the table, we may not become aware of it. No matter we are doing it for an employer, we may not know all these philosophies. But even then, when you are into the job, unknowingly, perseverance for the excellence comes. And perseverance for excellence means focused, single-pointed. Think about it. At that time, the me and mine consideration will not be there. It might be for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours. After that, we are back again to me and mine. Agreed. But when you know, it is inherent in us. It is not a thing that I have to borrow from somebody else. When we are drafting out a pamphlet or a leaflet or an article, when we draft and we keep on polishing it, every time when we are not satisfied with it, we are not looking up to somebody for any opinion. The inner urge to make it as perfect as possible. No other commercial interest is there. It is simply for our own satisfaction. We are not asking anybody to appreciate or give us the certificate. But it is an inner. We want his certificate, to be very frank. If he is not satisfied, he will again say, try. Fine-tuning will keep on coming, So first we are given a rough cut. And from the rough cut, we keep on polishing it. Now you just watch yourself. What is it that made you to do the polishing? To make it as perfect as possible. And you should get the feeling, now it is all right. So those are the moments when the me and mind steps out for some time. And the joy you get is immense. So that is about his words in 2nd chapter. When we come to the 8th chapter, sadhana for a happy ending of life. These are the words of Vinobaji. Samskaras are good as well as bad, and both of them influence human life. We hardly remember our childhood days. Samskaras from the former births are so completely erased that one wonders whether one had any previous birth at all. When we cannot remember even the childhood days, why talk of previous births? Let us therefore leave them aside and think only of this birth. Even here, we do not remember all the actions. Many are the things done and many the things known. In the end, most of them get erased, leaving behind only a few samskaras. If we try to recollect at bedtime all that we did during the day, please switch off. We fail to do so. Only the most prominent incidents come back before the mind's eye. For example, if we had a serious quarrel, we remember only that in the night. That quarrel is the only thing of the day that is carried forward in the account book of our life. Practical, no? Important and conspicuous events leave strong impressions. The rest fade away. When we write a diary, we note therein only a few important things. When we review the week, we note even less. While reviewing the month, only the most important happenings therein are remembered. Many of those would also be forgotten while reviewing the year. Thus, very few things remain in memory, and they form the samskaras. Most of the innumerable actions and much of what we have learned ultimately fade away, leaving only a small residue in the mind. Those actions and informations and know-how have done their work and disappeared. Only a few samskaras remain. And these samskaras are our capital. Beautiful. That is our net gain from the business of living. A trader keeps daily, monthly, annual accounts of income and expenditure and arrive at the figure of the profit or loss. It is exactly the same with life. Addition and deletion of samskaras go on throughout the life, resulting finally in a particular net balance. When the end of life comes near, the self begins to think of the gains in life. Looking back, it finds that they are few. This does not mean that all that one did and all that one learned have proved to be futile. They have certainly done their work. There could be thousands of transactions in a trader's business, but a single final figure of either profit or loss is the net result. If there is a loss, his heart sings. If there is a profit, he is happy. Those who have got accounts background, they will understand this. Everyone at the end of the financial year draw their final accounts. It's called trading account, profit and loss account, and balance sheet. In the case of institutions like this, it is income and expenditure account and balance sheet. So many transactions take place. But ultimately, when we get the abstract in this form, what was last year's performance, what is today's performance? This year's performance. So we get an idea, All the transactions that have gone, it fades away, but the cream of it comes out in the form of final accounts. So Vinobaji says, at the end of our life, when we draw the balance sheet of our life, when we draw the income and expenditure or profit and loss, what remains with us? Is it a bundle of grumblings and complaints, or is it a sense of fulfillment in whatever we have done? Think about it. So if it has to result in a sense of fulfillment, we must practice it now and here, So this contentment, this dedication, creativity, detachment, aiming at perfection, all these things should be there in all our daily transactions. Then only the net figure will be there. On 31st March, we cannot change anything. The whatever transactions that have taken place, we cannot do anything. Receipts have been prepared, vouchers have been prepared, got it signed, entered. We can't do anything. So every time when I enter into a transaction, if I am conscious of these salient factors, its cumulative effect will be reflected in the form of pleasant feeling. This is what Vinobaji says. Beautiful. Yes, presented it, Those who have got accounts background, they can easily understand this. We too are in a similar position. If at the time of death the mind craves for food, it's a clear indication of having spent the entire life in indulging the palate. So what comes there at the end of our life? That matters. So when Gandhiji said on the 28th that if I were to be shot and if I am not in a position to remember him on the last moment, he just wanted all of us to know that. That is why when he was assassinated, he could say, Hey Ram. That means it is not because of that particular moment. Every moment of his life he was conscious of God. That's why he says, if at the time of death the mind craves for food, it is a clear indication of having spent the entire life in indulging the palate. Craving for food is then only an achievement in life. It is the only capital that has been accumulated in this life. If a mother thinks of her child at the time of death, it shows that her attachment to her child is the strongest samskara she has acquired in her life. Whatever else she did was secondary. We had shared one more Anubhava, but for the sake of newcomers, we will again try to, because we are reliving those moments. Purvashram grandfather, he became critically ill. It must have been the year 1956 or 57. He had paralytic stroke and he was bedridden. He was in Bangalore with his second son. The eldest son was the managing director of the Amco batteries. Every day morning before he goes to the factory at 7 o'clock, he will come there, say a few words to Appa, and then he will go. One day the younger brother informed very early in the morning that today he seems to be in a critical state. So he rushed up. He held his hand in his hand. He called his father as Anna. So he went near his ear. Anna, he said. 2-3 times when he repeated, there was sign that he had heard this. Then when he knew that he had heard, he had become conscious of it. And in good old days, he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. And he was a regular goer to Guruvayur. So he said, Guruvayur, Guruvayur, Guruvayur. Suddenly, there was some movement in his eyelids. So he knew. You are there in the front. You are entering into the pragara, there's a corridor there. You are seeing the flag post. And then you are entering into the corridor. You are moving slowly. He was watching his father. He was in tall voice, he was talking this. And you are now before the Garbhagriha, Sanctum Sanctorum. Then he said, Anna, now you see the door is open. Krishna is there. At that particular moment, he dropped the body. No other thought. No? How is it that motivated that the eldest son to come and tell him this, at that particular moment? Just imagine. It is because of the samskaras he was carrying it. They only wanted something because he was incapable of telling at that time, bodily incapable. So God saw to it that through his eldest son, this was made to remember him. So that is how the samskaras play, positive samskaras play their role. We were studying in the school at that time. So when mother, father, everybody rushed up to Bangalore and then came back, and when this was revealed to us, even at that time, we were wondering what a blessed soul he was. Not to remember anything about his physical ailment, not to remember anything about anything, but only to remember about God and God alone. Guruvayurappan was in his heart, in everybody's heart. So he was made to remember this truth. So that proves to us that if we are steadfast, God will see to it. The indwelling spirit will see to it that we are led properly to him, even at the last moment. So this essence should be sweet. That is the final answer of the equation of life. The thought that arises at the last moment in this life is the essence of the whole of one's life. It signifies what has been gained in this life. This essence should be sweet. The last moment should be happy. A person should experience inner peace and fulfillment at the time of death. It is for this that one should endeavor throughout one's life. All is well that ends well. We should fix the mind on this final answer while solving the problems of life. We are not retiring from any field of activities. We are dynamic. But while doing all transactions in the life, Vinobaji cautions us, this should be writ large in your mind. We should fix the mind on this final answer while solving the problems of life. We should plan the life with this aim in view. In a mathematical exercise, we have to keep the problem in mind, employ the appropriate method to solve it. Our life should be oriented in such a way that at the last moment, we will have the samskara we want. Day and night, our whole attention should be turned in that direction. What a beautiful way of presenting Bhagavad Gita, no? With this background, we go through stanza by stanza, we get more and more clarity. Rather than reading by sloga and sloga, we develop a lot of concepts. Mostly it becomes, academic. For a busy person who is totally oriented towards it, who is exclusively concentrating it, he may do manana behind every sloga, every theme. But those of us who are involved in multivarious activities, who would also like to know about this song celestial, which is called Bhagavad Gita, it is a tough job. But a summary of this, if this is given to us, with that perspective we go. The 8th chapter, it became clear to us only after reading this. This is the central theme. Essence should be sweet. The last moment should be happy. A person should experience inner peace and fulfillment at the time of death. And death is inevitable. All is well that ends well. We should fix the mind on this final answer while solving the problem of life. We should plan the life with this aim in view. In a mathematical exercise, we have to keep the problem in mind, employ the appropriate method to solve it. Our life should be oriented in such a way that at the last moment, we will have the samskara we want. Day and night, our whole attention should be turned in that direction. The 8th chapter puts forward a thesis that the thought uppermost in mind at the time of death prevails over others in the next birth. When we start on a journey, you see everywhere he brings, the daily life dimensions. So that we are connecting our daily life. We are integrating all these with our day-to-day life. He says, when we start on a journey, we carry some provisions with us to sustain us on our journey. The thought uppermost in mind at the time of death, which is the essence of what has been earned in this life, is the provision with which we start our journey in the next birth. That is why we see the multiplicity. For the same parents, you have got, different children. So what is it? Genetically same, environmentally same, geographically same, emotionally same father and mother, same setup, same food. But children are different. Then we remember this, the provision we carry from our previous birth. The samskaras we carry from the previous birth is the reason for these different characteristics in our life. Nowadays, the parents may find it difficult to understand this because they have only one child. So this cannot, but they can look back. Or 2 children. If 2 children are there, we can easily understand. If there is only one child, we will not be able to understand. But suppose our parents have so many children, we can immediately connect up. Me and my brother, me and my sister, they are different. So when we start on a journey, we carry some provisions with us to sustain us on our journey. The thought uppermost in mind at the time of death, which is the essence of what has been earned in this life, is the provision with which we start our journey in the next birth. We begin a new day with the previous day's gains in hand. Death is like a long sleep, after which we begin a new life with gains of the previous birth. End of this life is the beginning of the next one. Hence, one must always be aware of the inevitability of death while conducting oneself in this life. This is necessary also to enable us to face the dread of death and find ways and means to counter it. But man always evades the thought of death. The French philosopher Pascal has written a book titled Pensées, Thoughts. It contains his stray thoughts. He observes therein that although death is always looking over our shoulders, we continually try to forget it. How to live with the awareness of death in mind is never our concern. Man detests even the very mention of the word death. If somebody utters this word while taking meals, he is immediately admonished. Nevertheless, we are continually moving towards death. Once you board a train to Mumbai, it is bound to take you there, even if you just keep sitting. The moment we are born, we have booked a ticket to the destination called death. Whether we run or keep sitting, death is bound to come. Whether you think of it or not, you cannot avoid it. Whatever else may be uncertain, death is certain. The sun sets every day, taking away a portion from our life. Life is continually being gnawed at it. It is continually withering away. Still man takes no notice of it. Jnandev exclaims, "How curious!" He wonders how man could be so thoughtless and unperturbed in such a situation. Man is so frightened of death that he cannot even bear the thought of it and tries to evade it like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. Soldiers going to the front play, dance or sing or smoke to avoid the thought of death. Pascal wonders how they lose themselves in eating and drinking, singing and dancing in order to forget death, even when they see death everywhere. We are all like those soldiers. We try to keep a smiling face, apply creams to hide wrinkles, dye our graying hair. We are ceaselessly trying to brush aside the thought of death, even though it is dancing on our chest. What a language. We talk about anything but death. Ask a boy who has done his matriculation about his future plans. He will reply, "Don't ask me now, I have just joined the college." If you put the same question next year, he will reply, "Let the second year of college pass. I shall think of the future thereafter." So it goes on, but one should think of the future in advance, prepare for the next step, otherwise one will land oneself in a ditch. But the student shuts the stars. The education that the poor fellow receives is so full of darkness that he has little idea of what is in store for him. He refuses to visualize the future since he sees only darkness ahead. But there is no escape from the future. It is bound to catch him by the neck. The professor of logic teaches in this college, man is mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Why does he not give his own example? The professor too is mortal, but he would not say, "All men are mortal, therefore I, the professor, are mortal. Dear students, you too are mortal." He gives the example of Socrates, since Socrates is already dead and is not there to protest howsoever we use the name. Students and teachers talk of the mortality of Socrates, but conveniently keep mum about their own. People, perhaps they feel they are fully secure from death. In this way, people everywhere are continually making deliberate efforts to forget death. But does that ward off death? It makes its presence felt when someone dear to us passes away. But still, man does not think of death fearlessly and summon courage to overcome its challenges. A deer chased by a tiger finally gets exhausted, although it is swift and agile. Death is in the form of the tiger, continues to pursue it. Imagine the condition of that poor creature. It cannot look at the tiger. It closes its eyes, buries its antlers and face in the ground and helplessly waits for death. We too cannot dare to look at death, but howsoever we may try, it is bound to pounce on us. And when death finally comes, man begins to take stock of what he has on balance at the end of his life. A dull and lazy student in the examination hall just looks here and there, whiles away his time. Dear chap, is Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge, going to come down from heaven to write answers for you? He keeps the answer book blank, or at the most scribbles a few lines, submits it when the time is up. Our condition is no different. But keeping the mind that life ultimately ends on death, we must constantly practice Hari Om. We must constantly practice throughout our life, and the means by which we can make the last moment pure, sacred, happy. From this very moment, we should be concerned with having the best of the samskaras. Mind must be trained in a different way. It should be led to what is good and should be encouraged to get absorbed in it. The moment we realize that we have erred, we should start taking corrective steps. Once we realize that we have made a mistake, should we go on repeating it? The moment you come to realize your error is the moment of your rebirth. It should mark a new beginning in your life. Look at it as the dawn of your new life. You are now truly awake. Now you should critically examine your life day and night. You should become alert, lest you should slip down, lest you should go back to practicing bad ways. So it is a tough subject, but a subject that is related to our day-to-day life. So Vinobaji, when he was hardly 22 years old, this came out. Or at best 30, okay, 30. Just imagine. So if at the prime youth, if you are in a position to dial up on all these things, not that we have to retire from any field of activities. We will try to bring out the maximum capability or efficiency or excellence of our work. But in the corner of the mind, we should remember about this. That we should carry good samskaras. That is the 8th chapter, according to Vinobaji, is this reminder to all of us. At the end of reading the 8th chapter, if this comes to our mind, that the cream or the essence of the 8th chapter is, we should carry good samskaras. Then only we will be able to have this journey blissful. So that is the take-home message for all of us. Let us dwell upon it more and more. Never feel that thinking about death demotivates our activity. No, certainly not. We become more clearer. We become more detached. And at the same time, we become more and more broad-minded. What is to be done through us, we will do. We will try to do to the maximum capacity. So this is the take-home message for today. For the past 2-3 days, Papa has been prompting us to dwell on this, which was proposed through somebody. An essential point for all spiritual aspirants. Not only for spiritual aspirants, but before that we had no occasion to know this, Our spiritual guru guided us to many of the teachings of the various Mahatmas. And then eke out, what is good for us. Keep it in our baggage and try to masticate it again and again and again. Chimyanandaji said, chewing it again and again. That is what is called reflection or contemplation or manana. But let us all try to do it, not simply hearing and going. because it is connected to our day-to-day life. It is linked to our very life. So let us all try from today onwards a resolve in our mind to have good samskaras before we drop this body. Hari Om. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om